Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into a beautiful classic poem by one of India's most amazing poets, Sarojini Naidu. It's called The Wandering Singers, and we're going to break it down line by line to really understand who these mysterious musicians are and what drives their endless journey. So let's start with the poet herself. Sarojini Naidu was famously known as the Nightingale of India, and when you read her work, you totally get why. Her words just sing. This poem, in particular, paints this incredible picture of nomadic folk singers, like old-school traveling bards who are always on the move, carrying their songs and stories with them.
And this really brings up the big question that the poem asks. Who exactly are these people? And what's this whole deal with the wind? It seems to be more than just weather. It's like a force that's guiding their every single step. So let's find out together.
Okay, let's jump right into the very first stanza. This is where we get our first clues about who these singers are and why they can't stay in one place.
Right off the bat, we learn that their journey isn't really a choice. They're being called by the voice of the wind. I love that phrasing. It's not a gentle suggestion, it's a command, a powerful pull that leads them through both the wildness of nature and the busy streets of cities.
And here we find out what they carry. Lutes. So they're musicians for sure. But that next line, wow, that's their whole philosophy right there. They see all people as family, as their kindred, which means they belong to no single place, because, to them, the entire world is home. Now, the poem specifically mentions lutes, so let's quickly check out what that is. So a lute is this really beautiful, pear-shaped stringed instrument. Just getting that visual in your head helps you see the singers more clearly, right? You can picture them as these traditional folk artists carrying these classic instruments on their travels. So, to sum up this first stanza, the main takeaway is their total freedom from being tied down. They're always moving, they're guided by nature itself, and they have this deep belief that they're connected to all of humanity. They belong everywhere and nowhere all at the same time.
All right, so we've got a good idea of who these singers are. But what are they singing about? What kind of stories are in their songs? The second stanza tells us everything.
They sing about the past. Their songs, or lays, which is just an older word for songs, are about these great cities whose glory has faded. And that word luster is so important here.
Luster is like a soft glow, a radiance, or a shine. So when the poem says a city's luster is shed, it means its glory, its specialness has faded away. The singers, through their music, are the ones keeping the memory of that lost greatness alive.
And their music really covers the whole spectrum of life, doesn't it? They sing about these epic historical moments, the clash of swords, the heavy crowns of kings. But they also sing about the stuff we all know and feel: happiness, simple moments, and of course, sadness.
It's such a beautiful contrast, right? Their music weaves together these huge grand stories from history with the really personal, intimate feelings of everyday life. It's like they're both historians and poets of the human heart.
And this brings us to the final stanza, which might just be the most profound part of the whole poem. This is where we finally get the answer to the biggest question: why do they live this life?
So the singers ask this question, but they're not really looking for an answer. It's rhetorical. They're saying they don't stick around to build a future in one place, to gather hopes or sow dreams. Their purpose is much more direct, and they state it plainly. We go where the wind tells us to go. Period.
This is the core of their whole existence. Think about it. Not even love can make them stay. Not even pure joy can make them wait. And that final line tells us why. The voice of the wind isn't just the calling, it is their fate.
That word tarry, it's a bit old-fashioned, but it just means to linger or delay leaving a place. The singers are saying that even the most powerful human emotions can't get them to just hang around for a bit. They have to keep moving. And the reason is, the wind isn't just wind to them.
It's the voice of their destiny. This is a brilliant use of a literary device called personification, where you give a human quality, like a voice, to something that isn't human. For them, the wind literally speaks, and what it says decides their entire life's path. Their wandering isn't a lifestyle choice. It's their destiny.
So, after all that, what is the timeless message of this incredible poem? Let's kind of wrap up the core ideas that make The Wandering Singers a poem people still talk about today. At its heart, the poem is really a celebration of a totally different way of living. It's about a radical kind of freedom from being tied down, a deep belief in a universal family of humankind, and a total acceptance of destiny as your ultimate guide.
And this idea of universal kinship, that all people are our family, is probably the poem's most powerful and lasting message. It's a challenge to all of us to look past our differences and remember that we all share this one world as our home.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? For the wandering singers, their guiding voice was the wind, their fate. It makes you stop and think, what's the voice that guides you?